Hey everybody, welcome, welcome.
Hello. Oh, I know they're muted, so they'll have to say hello to us in the chat box.
Yes, please feel free to use the chat. Welcome to the next in a series of Q&As that is sponsored by EFTCNJ. And I would like to first and foremost thank Debbie again, who has been the pioneer in really bringing emotionally focused couples therapy and emotional focused therapy in general to the New Jersey area, built it from scratch. And here we are again, building community, getting together to do this really important work. So first and foremost, thank you, Debbie. Thank you for, again, your generosity of offering us your time and your guidance and expertise.
That's awesome. I like doing this. I love the idea that you guys came up with, and because I think it's great for the community and for people who are doing EFT, right?
Yep, yep. Thank you so much. So before we start, so we're gonna do this in a couple of ways. There are some questions that we got on people sent to us, so we will sporadically bring in questions asked that you guys sent in. Also, you guys feel free to raise your hand over here so that you can ask your questions. But first and foremost, I would like to ask you, Debbie. Debbie, when you see this topic, when EFT gets stuck, exploring common blocks in stage one and two, what is the first thing that comes to your mind that you think is important for us to know and understand?
That we need to start expecting the blocks in stage one and stage two, and not be so afraid of them or think we've done something wrong.
Mm,
But I think people think EFT is this beautiful model. You're supposed to access emotion, and once you do, the other person's going to receive it, and all is going to be good. And that's not how it works. So that's the first thing that comes to mind around that.
yeah, that is so important. Otherwise, we get frazzled in our own chair and then the work just doesn't happen so well. Right.
Yeah.
And also, quite frankly, right, my experience, right, if we don't actually work with the blocks, then they're having these amazing sessions at home, but then they're going back to their own house and getting into the same cycles again and again and again because we really didn't work with the blocks.
Right. We just got them to get soft and maybe hear each other in the session, and they don't even know what their cycle is. So
Exactly.
it doesn't have the sticking power to create change when we don't. That's another thing. When clients don't know their cycle, like no matter what beauty you're creating, it seems like different from the conflict that they get into. They have it as two separate experiences when it's not.
Mm,
It's really one.
right. Okay. Thank you so much. So, does anybody here have any questions? Please raise your hands. In the meantime, I'm going to ask one of the questions that we got is how can we deepen with a withdrawer without pressuring them to have feelings, especially if their pursuer partner keeps blaming them for not being emotional?
You have to repeat that. Oh, the reason why I'm saying that is because we're going to start talking. I just made Simi co-host, and she can admit people so we don't have to get stuck getting distracted by people who are coming in the waiting room. So I'm sorry, but I just wanted to do that for us.
Sure, sure, not a problem at all. How can we deepen emotional engagements from withdrawers during session, especially when their pursuer partner keeps blaming them for not being emotional?
So, the first thing we have to do is make sure the pursuer is soothed, and they're going to be soothed through our validation and acceptance and permission for where they are, right? And that doesn't take 20 minutes. By the way, it's like if you can just connect with the pursuer where they are, give them tons of permission for how they protect themselves, that opens the door for us to spend some time with the withdrawer. If the pursuer sends a zing over, right, and they're like, we're trying to like just even give airtime to the withdrawer. First thing you do is give them airtime. Forget about accessing their emotion. We need to like manage the session between the two so we're working evenly with both people in stage one throughout the entire stage one. We need to work evenly. So soothe the pursuer through validation, connection with them, permission for what they're doing, even in the blame, right? They're blaming because they're desperate for the relationship to change, and it makes so much sense that they do that, and they're hoping for that. And that doesn't work on your side when you get the blame, right? So that opens us the door for us to talk to withdrawers. When it comes to withdrawers, I feel like one of the things that we want to maybe avoid a little bit is continuing to ask them how they feel, especially if they've been accused for 20 years or 10 years or 50 years that they don't have any feelings. because that will kind of rattle them. So we need to start to be more creative and not ask withdrawers how they feel, but ask them, we could say, how does that land for you right now? We could say, I wonder what's coming up for you. Um, I noticed you look down there. Or I saw like your eyes got glassy for a second, right? So we can bring out the emotion without asking them how they feel, because it doesn't usually work very well, and they usually answer it with a think. Anyway.
Yes. All right, beautiful. Yeah, and we're going to be asking these questions on my end. I should make it more explicit when I'm asking stage one, stage two, and then general
Oh yeah.
this question. So this was, thank you for answering that, right? Because you made it clear this is a stage one question. So
Mhm.
yeah. We have another question over here. And again, please feel free to raise your hands. Anybody here? How can we tell when a client is actually flooded, even if they hide it well? Stage one question.
That's such an interesting question. I mean, and people might not like my answer, but I'm going to say attunement. Like, if your client is flooded emotionally and you're attuned to them, you would feel that. Like, I'm a big like use yourself, use your own emotional world, like access to your like feelings so you can feel with the client. And if you're feeling alongside of them, then you would know if they're flooded. I'm like a little hesitated because I think sometimes people think when people are emotional, they're flooded. I mean, that's like to me, people feeling emotion or crying or even sobbing or weeping doesn't mean that they're flooded.
So a lot of attunement, intuitively feeling, so to speak, when this is just high emotional engagement does not mean emotional flooded. And then being able to just sense when somebody is getting emotionally flooded. Are there any like keys that you can give us into how you do that, how you pick up?
I mean, I think like um, moving closer to the client when you feel like they're um, appear to be, so if they're hiding being flooded, there's usually going to be signs for that. So let's first comment on that. Like
What are those signs?
people can't sit here and talk like you and I if one of us is flooded. So if I'm flooded and I'm a pursuer, you're going to see signs. Like I'm going to be like crying or really angry, maybe flooded. I might dissociate, just like, right, do that. If I'm a withdrawer, I could be frozen in the face and we're talking about something that's really significant, like the significance of this relationship. So that could mean that they're flooded. It could also mean that they're just protecting themselves. So we have to like say what we see, lean in. What's happening for you right now? I noticed this, like your face got frozen there for a second. Are you here with me in the room? Did you leave the room? And sometimes people will say yes. And I say, okay, can you come back? Can you hear my voice? I think when people get flooded emotionally, the best thing that we could do is be with them, right? So they're not alone because that's what makes it worse. So.
Okay, great answer. Um, Another stage one question. How do we help a couple de-escalate when both escalate quickly and refuse to focus on themselves? So they're both escalated, focusing on each other, and we want to help join each one in their own world, but they're busy focusing on each other.
I mean, one of the things I would say is you can just tell them. I'm noticing right now that you're talking about your spouse and listing what they're doing wrong or your complaints in the relationship. And then you're doing the same thing and you're listing what your spouse is doing wrong. And it's just like you guys are just like ramped up. And the more you do this, the more you're getting ramped up. I'm wondering if we can time that out. And then I could redirect. But to hold the mirror up for for clients to see what they're doing is really important, right? And if as long as we do it with empathy and curiosity, like so clients don't feel judged and criticized by us, right? That's why empathy and curiosity is so important. Because if they feel like we're judging them or criticizing them for their behavior, now they have protection with us. So we want to make sure we have a lot of empathy. Like I'm noticing this is happening. I'm seeing it happen right here, right now. I don't think this is good for you guys. Can I pause you? here you are both talking about the other person and I imagine neither one of you are feeling hurt and they usually say yes. I'm like, okay, so let's stop that if we can. Can we put a pause to that? Can you talk to me is another thing. Like when couples are escalating, well, first of all, I'd like people to talk to me unless I send over an enactment, basically. Um, and especially around escalation, because if they're towards each other and you're on the outside, it's going to make it hard for you to move into their energy field. And the more they do this to each other, the tighter their energy field gets and the harder it is for you. So, can you please talk to me? Like, I know this is really important for you. Hang on one second. I'm gonna like come to you in a second. Let me just hear from your spouse. And then make sure you go over there and you don't spend 20 minutes over here. When people are escalated and highly reactive, it's important for us to not try to have the other person sit in silence for very long. Like long enough for me to spend some time over here to see if I can get your voice to come down a couple notches, let you know that I hear what you're saying, and then go over there. You don't have to be completely soothed. You don't have to be accessed. You just have to like connect with me. So then I can go over there and then connect with that person to try to regulate them going right back up.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question. I'm going to read this the way it was sent to us, pretty much. How do you handle it when the pursuer refuses to accept any responsibility, even after the withdrawer explains their side?
Um, how do you handle it when the pursuer refuses to accept responsibility, even when the withdrawer explains their side? So those words right there are cycle words.
Right.
They are in the cycle right there. Because if it's withdrawer is explaining their side, it's a move in the cycle. And then the pursuer is doing a lot of blame or accusation on this side. And then the withdrawer is like defending or making excuses or explaining itself or justifying why they do what they do. So it just triggers the cycle. So we need to start seeing that as a cycle move. It's not something different from the cycle. This is what the person does. Right. So, what was part two of the question? I want to
How,
make sure.
how do you handle when the pursuer refuses to accept responsibility, even after the withdrawer explains their
Oh,
side?
okay. So yeah, I think I covered that, but I thought there was like a part two there. Um, I also, oh yeah, no, it was in the beginning. If we keep trying to get pursuers to take responsibility for what they're doing in this cycle, they are not going to accept responsibility, because you're they're receiving that as you not understanding them, you not seeing them, they don't matter, they don't have a voice here, nobody sees me, because all when the therapist is like, oh, I got to get you to see your part and you got to take accountability and blah blah blah, because that's what EFT says, like you got to own your move in the cycle. No, way before own your move in the cycle is attunement, alliance, um, explore, empathic responsiveness, validation. All those things happen before clients own their move. And the better we do on that side, validation, alliance, attunement, empathic reflection, attachify, the more we do that, the better we do that, the more likely the pursuer is able to own their behavior. Because their behavior that they're doing this cycle makes a ton of sense because their behavior is coming from distress. It's coming from panic. It's coming from their longing to be close to this person who means the world to them and they can't find a way in. So that they like pound on the door, they yell, they criticize, they whatever. So like when you frame it like that, which is the attachment frame, pursuers are much more likely to own it rather than me trying to get them to be accountable.
It's almost like a parallel cycle. Like you said, you answered the question very well in terms of how do we handle it? First of all, just understand that this is a cycle, right? Because an explanation won't soothe the pursuer.
Yes.
And if we try to get them to own their moves, again, they're not being soothed. What they really need from their partners and from us is to be understood, seen, and validated.
Hmm.
Excellent. Excellent. And again, I just want to encourage anybody here, if you want to raise your hand so you can ask a question live, we'll unmute you, and let you be seen in the video. It would be nice to see you all. So another stage one question. How do you handle avoidant or elusive partners who make it hard to get to the core emotions? So basically, how do you work with withdrawers in stage one?
I know. That's what I was like thinking. I was thinking, well, Isn't that withdrawers protection? The description of elusive or avoidant, that's how withdrawers protect themselves. So speaking of which, come to the two hour little booster I have on Core Skills 3, all about withdrawers coming up in 2 weeks. Um, but it's like first we need to like appreciate the protection. Everybody needs to back themselves up and stop trying to get your couples to change. Start leaning in and really getting a felt sense of this is the only way they know how to be safe. Whether it's the pursuer in their anger and blame or withdrawer and being avoidant and elusive. Like this is how they protect themselves because they've been so hurt.
Mm.
Attachment relationships. It's a protection. It's not trying to be a difficult client. It's not blocking the therapist. They might be blocking you if they feel judged by you or if you give them the signal somehow that they're doing it wrong in therapy. I'll always remember this one client. I don't, he stands out. They were a special couple that I worked with. And it was something happened in session between him and his wife. And I just said, "Oh my gosh, you did it right. Right there. You did it right." The smile on this guy's face, the emotion that came with the smile was so powerful, right? Because for a withdrawal who's always doing it wrong, and then also feeling like they're doing it wrong in session because the cycle shows up in session and the partner is telling them how they're doing it wrong. Um, it's super powerful when they get a message from us therapists that they're doing it right. You're doing this right. You're doing a great job here. You're sharing, you're opening up, right? You're putting words to your experience. I love that you're doing that right now. I know it's hard for you. Look how awesome this is. Like they need to be hearing that from us, not the energy that we might bring of your elusive and avoidant. And therefore, I feel like well, I look at you as the problem because if we track cycles with our clients and what happens to us, usually we're feeling incompetent as the therapist or feeling like we're doing something wrong on a deep level inside of us that therefore prompts us to look at them as the problem because it's pretty painful for us. So we also need to check out our cycles with our clients too. Be mindful of that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great answer. So before we segue to our stage two questions, we have, I think it's a stage one question, which is what are the main differences between stage one and stage two, and why does it matter?
Hmm. Um, the main difference is you're going to see a lot more cycle behavior in stage one. Um, and you're going to be working with bigger blocks in stage one, and the work is to chip away at the block so it can prepare us for stage two. Main difference is um, vulnerable emotion is to be accessed in stage one, sad, fear, shame, right? Like we want that bubbling up to the surface. In stage two, the most significant difference is we're working with view of self. I mean, that's the best way to describe. Stage two is working with view of self and having somebody safe enough in the relationship because we've done our good stage one work that they're able to go down and take that elevator down into exploring the view of self that they've internalized because of negative cycles, because of attachment despair in their relationships with the most important people, parent and partner, right? So that impacts our view of self. So that's where we want to get to in stage two and have the partner receive that, respond to that, be present in that, accept them and love them in that place. That's different.
Absolutely. So I know I said I'm going to segue, but I just
Okay.
was aware of the chat over here. So
Mhm.
feel free to add more questions to the chat. I just wasn't aware of it until now. So Abby, hi, first of all. And then also I'm going to read your question before we move to asking stage two questions. And please, everybody, feel free to raise your hands over here or just post in the chat box. So Abby asked, is there a way to create safety in a couple where one person isn't sure if they love and accept the other person?
Love and accept.
I'm not if there, I guess, Abby, you can chat to clarify, but I think it means like if the partner that the one that's not sure if they love or accept the other partner, how can we make it safe for them? Not sure. Yes,
I just asked her to unmute. I'm not sure if you can do that,
she's
Abby.
in the chat. I don't know if she
I
has
see her, yeah.
to go away.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Uh, wh- that's exactly it. It's that one partner is not sure if they really love that other partner and if they can accept who they really are. So is there a way to create safety in that relationship and attachify, like, how to use attachify in a couple like that?
Okay, so I would use Attachify by saying things like, this was supposed to be your person. This is supposed to be the person who has your back. You're not supposed to be in this place of not being sure, being ambivalent, and that's really sucks. So you attachify like it's like a light, different kind of attachify, which helps there. And I would also be looking at um, is the lack of love slash acceptance, is that part of their protection because they've been so hurt? Like, so it's like, are they saying these things because their wall has gotten so thick over the years that they like, in order to distance myself more and more from you, I have to say that I don't love you, or I'm not sure if I love you, or I don't know if I can accept you as you are.
Right. In this particular couple, it was from the get-go, from the moment they got married.
Mm.
Um, so it's unfortunate because they didn't know each other that well when they got married, and
Mhm.
so
Makes
they
sense.
and they were very young, so they didn't really know themselves either that well.
Right. And so that I would really lean into, you know, that it wasn't supposed to be this way. You were supposed to get married, and maybe people told you everything will work itself out, and this is what you're supposed to do, and it didn't work itself out, right? And it wasn't supposed to happen this way. Um, I when people don't know each other very well and they get married, sometimes it can be really beautiful because they can go on a journey of getting to know each other, and falling in love, and sometimes because of I think there's a lot of fear that gets activated when you don't know someone very well and you're put in a relationship with them, and now all of a sudden you're supposed to be like a spouse to them. So I think a lot of fear can come up when people aren't kind of on that one side where, okay, let's look at this as a journey of falling in love. And it's more like I'm terrified of, I'm terrified of intimacy, terrified of sex, terrified of being a good husband or a good wife. And then that can kind of pull people back to protect themselves more. So I think, I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. Like looking at what path this particular couple is on and then attachifying based on where the couple is. Like there was an expectation for the person that you're talking to, there was an expectation that their spouse was going to be ABC and their spouse isn't ABC, and that has a huge impact. So let's be curious and explore the impact when they had an expectation that it was going to be this and instead it's this.
okay, so thank you. A stage two question, I guess. How do you work with a partner who fears that this extra level of intimacy will lead to further conflict down the line? So not sure exactly because that seems more like stage one work that would have then been done. But so it's just like, how do you work with a partner who fears the extra level of intimacy that stage two brings? Let's ask it that way.
They're afraid of the extra level of intimacy. We would need to explore and first like explore the fear so we can then validate the fear. Like, I mean, I think fear, like, well, fear drives a lot of stuff, basically it drives negative cycles. And it also does show up in stage two. So even after a couple has a sense of their cycle, they get it, they start to they start to trust the other person more because they've seen the vulnerable emotion and they can connect that. Oh, because you're longing to be close to me, you actually get angry with me. Like at first they're like, what? That's like right. Through our stage one work, that starts to shift. So when that starts to shift, we still have years of being in a cycle. So to me, in if we get those shifts, that de-escalation shifts that we're looking for, and we start stage two, to me, fear is always going to be there. And if it's not, it's almost strange because they don't have anything else other than the cycle. That's the dance that they've been doing. And now, okay, they know it, they get it, they've had a shift, but they don't know how to interact with each other. And the cycle is so powerful that it pushes up against them even as we're doing stage two work. So if you're trying to do stage two work and you're deepening someone into their attachment fears or longings and you're dabbling into view of self and they're like, and then they start talking about like, wait a second, like this, like what happens after this if the cycle comes up, right? We want to be able to validate that fear and be able to tell them, of course, that's coming up right now because they've never done this before. And because the cycle's been running their relationship for so long and that fear is like really valid. And I totally get it. And I might say, and I'm wondering if we can just like pause that for 1 second and stay right here and give this a try. Like, is that something we can do? If not, let me know. If the fear gets too big, I'll totally understand. So fear has to be acknowledged and validated in stage two. And I want you guys to also put yourself in the shoes of your clients. And even though you start to feel that your partner likes you or cares about you or you matter, if the cycle has been happening for 5 years or 50 years, when it comes down to going into view of self and sharing that, it makes sense that your fear is going to come up. It doesn't have to be a block that stops a bonding event, though. It does have to be acknowledged and validated.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So as you're saying this, I remember in the beginning seeing Sue give her a little quick intro to EFT. So she's working with a couple and they ask her, how does EFT work? And she starts by saying, love and fear are two sides of the same coin. So it just makes sense as you're saying there's something about as they further go down to their view of self, more bonding, more connection, more love, their fear is going to be there on a different level.
Yeah.
So combining two questions together, so to speak. In stage two, sorry, does the shift, quote unquote, just happen, or do we actively create it? And also another question, what happens if you're doing stage two work, but then cycle shows up again, and then you're back to like doing de-escalation cycle work? Um,
So the first question is, do we do something active? Are we active in creating the shift into stage two? So yes and no. I mean, so and what I mean by that is what happens if you're just working with your couple and they're making progress and then you like all of a sudden land into stage two. Um, that's totally fine, right? That's like, okay, so we're the emotion, this client, they feel safe enough. They have the ability to stay in their emotion longer, the vulnerable emotion. They're not all over the place like they are when they came in. They can tolerate their sitting there vulnerably, and then this view of self starts to come up. Um, awesome. Work with it, right? Like work with it. And when you look at your couple and you're reflecting on them before they come into session, are they a couple that is de-escalated? Ask yourself that question. Do they know their cycle? If I ask them today, what is your cycle? Are they going to be able to be very clear on the inside? When I feel lonely, I come out and then on the inside, when I feel like I'm not good enough, I defend and justify or explain. And then that pulls us both in. That's how we are, right? Yay. Okay. Um, and throughout the course, they should be saying the cycle's less intense at home. They should be saying that they're able to interrupt it a little bit. Um, and we also see the shift in the care for each other. Like, because you can, like, I can buy the reframe of your behavior. I can believe that you're fighting for our relationship when you're angry at me all the time. And I can believe that you're actually trying to preserve our relationship when you shut down all the time. So, and then if we have those things and thinking about our couple outside a session, then we can go in with a plan. I mean, EFT is emotionally focused, emphasis on focused therapy. So we can go in with a plan to do withdrawal re-engagement.
excellent, excellent. So a question, I guess I'm going to people asked about the AIRM model,
Mhm.
attachment injury repair model. Um, so there's a general question of how do you use it within the flow of the general sessions? And there was also a question about how to deal with it when it comes up in stage two. And there's also a question of what happens in stage one that they're like it's kind of cycle de-escalation, but the attachment injury is fueling the cycle, but you can't go through the IRM model because there's not safety because there's a present moment cycle. So like kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg question.
I love how people would like, I know you guys want me to give you concrete answers to these questions because then you can feel safer and more competent and more understanding EFT. And unfortunately, I don't, I mean, you might find concrete answers out there. And if you follow things too rigidly to the concrete answer, you're going to lose the art of EFT. And that's why it's not going to work. Whenever you're going to try to do the ARIM model, and it's like, it's not working because it says to do it here, not here. It's like, well, I don't understand. If is like maybe you should just do it when it comes up and comes up and is dominating. So when we're trying to do cycle de-escalation, if there's a big injury that we know about, we can ask people if we can like I know that that's really important. We're going to get to that. I just wanted to spend some time seeing if we can so you can ask them. And if it doesn't work, I would do a little mini repair in stage one, right? Access the pain of the injury, validate it, see, can you see the person's pain, do an enactment, like, while supporting the person who did the injury, right? And then can you just let them know that you see it and you get the impact you had on them, possibly a small apology, but the bigger work is going to happen later on. So if it has to happen in stage one, then do it because it's a block. Because I'm hoping that makes sense. If the injury is a block and that's all they keep coming talking about, and you've asked if we can try to put it aside, and they're like, no, we just do it then, and then no, you're going to do it again. So concrete answers and cookie cutter EFT doesn't really work.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because as I was just synthesizing these questions, I actually noticed myself like, hey, what's going on? As I'm asking you this, I felt my shoulders like coming up, and I was like, what's going on? And as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what Debbie taught me, and my shoulders just dropped because yeah, it is so hard, and I know that I personally cannot be comfortable in my chair where I'm like, would I do this and would I put this and how do I put this and that anxiety kind of just stops everything. And yes, like.
And people, and some of you who are on the call might feel like that doesn't make me feel comfortable. That I like what makes me feel most comfortable is following a concrete plan. And I would say, okay, then follow the concrete plan until you feel that you can like loosen the reins on that.
Mm,
I mean, so the ARM model, I'd been doing EFT. I was certified. I think I might have even been a trainer when that came out. So, and doing attachment injury repair without a model that lays it out. So doing EFT before the tango came out, successful EFT. Like I was already doing that. So sometimes these things that come out that are there to help us understand become, we become too rigid around them. And then it becomes harder to do EFT.
right. Yeah. I keep remembering so many supervision sessions with you that when you kept pointing out to me attunement before agenda or I'm blanking of which word I'm thinking of right now, or a model or like kind of always attunement first.
Yep.
You're reassuring me if you just do that, everything will fall in place. And I know in my life, definitely that, in my work with my clients, that it constantly revalidates itself. So
Good.
I'm seeing a question over here from Barbara. Hi, Barbara. There has been so much damage to trust. They have both withdrawn from being vulnerable and are both so fearful of expressing deeper feelings. Will cause an end to the sorry, expressing deeper feelings will cause an end to the relationship. How do you address this fear?
There's so much mistrust because there's been so much hurt and pain in the relationship.
Yep. And therefore, they're both withdrawn and scared that if they express their deeper feelings, it'll cause an end to their relationship.
Well, I guess if their deeper feelings are, I don't want to be with you, then maybe that will cause an end to the relationship. And maybe we need to create space to explore that and bring that to the surface. Because if that's really what's at the bottom of the barrel for somebody, then we need to be able to create room to explore that and be curious about that. So that's first thing I want to say. And that doesn't mean we're not doing successful EFT. So if that's where somebody is experientially and it's that's where they feel in their body, that's just where they are emotionally, like we need to be able to create room for that and not be afraid to bring that to the surface. Um, and then I will say that if they're showing up in your office, we need to remember that they're mammals and hold an attachment frame. Even if you can't see it, it is there. So they are there. They say that they love each other, as you see in the chat box.
Yeah.
Right. So they might have a misconception of what sharing your feelings is. If sharing your feelings is talking about the other person, then they could hurt each other. And that could be the block here. Because maybe sharing their feelings is something that they tried to do in the cycle and they don't quite get that that actually fuels the cycle and hurts each other, which is why well, we've tried sharing our feelings for 20 years and it's never worked. And I've always hurt my spouse. And so I'm pulling back and I'm pulling back too because sharing feelings doesn't work. Well, because they really weren't sharing feelings. It was blame. So we need to, and I don't know if that's the answer for this couple. I am correct. That's awesome, right? So now that we know that, we can hold that frame up and like let them know. Like it makes so much sense why you're afraid and why there's so much mistrust because when you tried to share it in the past, it actually wasn't about how you're feeling. It was more about what the other person was doing. And yes, that hurts. It hurts when you love somebody deeply and you keep hearing from them what you're doing wrong. It sucks. It's awful. And I get it. And that's a cycle, right? So we just have to validate that, frame that for them, right? And give permission for them for the um like fear, right? Because they're saying they're fearful of hurting the other person. Well, if if we if we if we do stage one, the fear comes down some enough for us to have them take bigger risks with each other. So think about it as like like a staircase going down. Little baby risk, little baby risk, little baby risk, risk, risk. And we're working down that staircase to get to the bottom, which is view of self.
Okay, thank you for that, Barbara. Um, how do we work through an impasse when both partners, so basically in stage, I'll reword this a little bit. In stage two, they've done the stage one work, but they're getting stuck because they can't forgive old hurts and still feels too hard. So they're de-escalated, they're not getting into the cycle as much. They know the cycle, but emotionally they're still not letting go of the past hurts.
So part of me wants to say is maybe there's a missing piece in de-escalation because for me, and the way I was taught, is like the part of de-escalation is a shift inside. Like I see you differently now because I've seen your vulnerable emotion over 5 sessions or 500 sessions. I don't even care how many it is. So then so that build starts to build a different feeling inside versus you don't like me, you don't care about me, I don't matter. Because I've seen all that and experienced that and sit in session with you and we've done enactments and all that great stuff, like something inside me is now more open. So if past hurts keep coming up, it's a block. And maybe that block needs to be worked on before we can, quote, go to stage two. And I think often that the past hurts thing is really fear, right?
Yeah.
Past hurts that keep coming up is really your client telling you, I'm terrified, I'm terrified, I'm terrified, although they're not using those words. But I'm pretty sure that that's what they're saying to you. Because these past hurts can come up again.
That's
You could do this to me again, right?
Right. And just adding my own question over here. So, um, how do we work with that in terms of like the reality is there isn't a guarantee that they won't happen again?
Right. I mean, I think we do need to let people know that there isn't a guarantee that you guys aren't going to get pulled into your cycle again, right? The work that we're doing here is to strengthen your bond enough that if you do, it doesn't send you into a spiral of a cycle, right? Like if we strengthen their bond of vulnerability, risking, responding, and reaching, like, and like they get hurt. I mean, you're going to get hurt in relationships no matter how great your emotional bond is because we're not perfect. And we do things to sometimes hurt the people that we love unintentionally. So the difference is if we have a strong enough emotional bond, then it doesn't send us into a spiral, like a downward spiral into the depths of despair of you don't love me and I don't matter to you. So,
I love how you frame that because right in the question, it's more like, how do I how do I deal with that my partner doesn't hurt me again? And like the way you reflect it back is, yes, the cycle will show up again. It's about the cycle. It's about like it's the cycle. It's not directly my partner, which makes it feel,
mhm.
yeah. Um, so I guess another question, which comes down to injuries. How do affairs impact the EFT process and what helps with forgiveness?
Hmm. Um, I would say affairs impact the EFT process by maybe making it a little harder. Like it's harder working with a couple where there's been a betrayal than there is working with a couple who hasn't had that, right? So I think during our assessment phase, part of our assessment of this couple is to determine how hard they're going to be.
Mm,
So if there's affairs, if there's addiction, past addiction, current, like we have to remember that and not push so hard for them to, why is this couple, look at your caseload. Why is your one couple or two couples or three, whatever, not if they're not making progress like the other couples, well, go back to their history and see, was there an affair? Is there addiction? Is there something there that is making it harder? What about childhood? Right? The impact of attachment relationships in childhood. So that's the first thing I'm going to say is first, like give permission to yourself for this to be a really hard case. So, whether it's affairs or addictions or fill in the blank. Um, and then I would say, like, it's like an injury again. So, can we track a cycle that happened before the affair? Can we track a cycle after the affair? Um, Will they let us do that, or is like the affair so front and center that they won't let us do anything so we can validate how how the affair is front and center because it makes so much sense is what you think about. You wake up, you know, so we just validate the heck out of that. Lots of permission to our clients for their struggles. An attachment frame will help you. It will guide you when you are having a difficult time in EFT. I feel like go back to the attachment frame. Go back to seeing your client through an attachment lens. That this is about pain and suffering. It's not about like them being a difficult client or them not being able to make it or heal.
it looks like we got another question from Barbara. The fight has resulted in living in separate places,
Hmm.
times being together most of the time. Should this be addressed and when?
Can you say that to me again?
Sorry. Their fight have resulted in living in separate places at times and being together most of the time. Should this be addressed and when?
I mean, I think that I would just put that in the cycle. Like I had a couple that um I mean, they're together 30 years, and I don't know how many years ago the one person bought another house, right? And that house became like when the cycle showed up, like the withdrawal would go to the house, right? And that, as of today, the house has been sold and that things are going well with this couple. But if we ignore that, like, what is the impact of that? what does it impact on, like, for both of them? Is that a withdrawal move to go live somewhere else? Like, did somebody tell them to do that? Is it working? Like, I'm open to hearing clients saying, it was the best thing that we did, and it's actually helping us not get so triggered. And then I'm like, okay, right? If that's what they're saying, then just listen to them and let them. And if it's saying like it's the worst thing ever, because now I feel like more alone, or like I'm more terrified that my partner's just going to go to the other house, right? So we got to explore that, be curious, and let our clients share with us the impact it's having.
What do you do in stage two work when we try to make the withdrawer, so we try to have the withdrawer go first? Um, Trying to figure out how to word this.
Yeah.
It sounds from the question that one of the partners is more ready to go into stage two work than the other partner. How do we deal with that?
Both people have to be ready to go into stage two work. Because, like, if one partner is not ready and their protection is still really strong, or they don't get it or something, like, I wouldn't take the other person down to view of self,
Mhm.
because that's a setup for more hurt. So, um, I think I would check how you're seeing each member of the couple. And as the therapist, I think I would check on that within yourself. Um, because sometimes we're attachment beings, and sometimes we can get triggered and we might not even know it. And if you feel like one person's further ahead and the other person's more difficult, maybe there's something in there that's about self of the therapist. We like the one person a little bit more. They seem easier to work with. I don't know. I'm just tossing out stuff because you can't go to stage two if the couple's not ready to stage two. This is a couples therapy. It's an approach to create healing in couple relationship, right? So you can't go to stage two and so first I would look at myself. That's what I would do.
I imagine it is possible that one partner feels more secure in the relationship than another. Is that possible? That one just feels more secure than the other?
Yeah, I'm not saying, yeah, that's possible that they could be at different places. And the first thing I would look at is myself,
Hmm.
right? And being more secure in the relationship, I'm not sure if that means they're ready for stage two
Yep.
also, right? Like, again, I just want to say it's a couple process. Stage one is a couple process. Stage two is a couple process. The individual work that we actually do is in the deeper stage two work, where we bump into the some of the blocks for the individual to go down to view of self because it's so scary. Like, that's so I don't know. So um, it's a couple's process.
Right.
And if I'm more secure, then I can actually give you the time to, like, work through wherever you're stuck.
That's such a great point. That's such a great point. Yeah. Okay. Um, can EFT therapists integrate other methods or refer clients for extra help? And when would be the right time to do that?
EFT therapists can do whatever they want. I just want to say that whatever you want to do, you can do. So I don't want to, no concrete answer, no right and wrong here. Um, what I can share with you is what I do, and I don't refer people to individual therapy until like 2 months, 8 sessions, 12 sessions, somewhere around there. I don't refer them to individual therapy because it could fuel the cycle and somebody could be more of the problem. So I want to see if I can get them to get a sense of the cycle and have a little bit of buy-in there. And then if someone's really struggling, then sure, if I feel like the need to refer them. I would say that if I'm working with a couple and I feel like somebody needs additional support, like individual therapy, I would only send them to an EFT therapist. I wouldn't send them to someone else, because that often creates, it often, people who aren't trained in EFT and don't have an attachment perspective are there to help their individual client. And part of that help unconsciously could be about seeing the other person as the bad guy because we're just working with the individual. So that's why I would refer them to an EFT therapist. And was there a part two to that?
I don't think so, but yes, thank you so much for saying it. Yes, it makes your work so much easier. Even just, I think I remember from the last externship, David, you were talking about how like clients, other therapists that are not EFT trained, right? They could, for example, help a partner put more boundaries. So
Oh
especially
yeah.
working with a withdrawer, right? So it makes sense. It's not a wrong thing to do. Like you keep saying, it's not about right or wrong. And also it fuels the cycle, which we as EFT therapists could understand that somebody that's not an EFT therapist probably would not. Can you say
Um,
about that?
do you say talk about that?
Yeah, could you say a little bit more about that?
I
Like,
mean, I think that that's wickedly true.
yes.
I mean, like it's the whole boundaries thing is like anytime I hear something, boundaries and codependence.
Yeah, oh,
Like
codependent.
I'm like, oh no. And sometimes I'll just say, I'm curious, what is a boundary? But I have to be curious first. What is their definition of boundary? Is there a way that I can show them through their definition of boundary that that might be something that might be adding to the cycle or the word codependent, right? Like, so first I'm going to be curious and try to understand. And then I might even ask them, like, well, how does that impact your relationship or the dynamic between the two of you? Right? And the one person says, well, I feel better when I have a boundary. I was like, I totally get that. And that makes sense. How does it impact the dynamic between the two of you? When you draw a boundary, what happens next in your relationship? Right? Because EFT is about the relationship and codependency and boundaries are not my friend when I'm in EFT, when I have my clients and they say those words.
Yes. Yeah, I think from an attachment perspective, right? Codependency, the way we would word that was we call it an insecure attachment, if I'm understanding correctly, meaning you're not secure. That's why you're clinging. To call
Mhm.
the clinging behavior a name and almost pathologize it.
Yes. I mean, it is super pathologized in the addiction world.
Yes.
And they tell people to disconnect, if you will, from being codependent, which creates more distance in the couple's relationship, which is of course going to fuel the cycle. So it's if people are coming in and saying, I need help with my marriage and my relationship, we need to help them with their marriage and their relationship. That's the bottom line. And that is our client. And that is what we're working to. And we're going to hold our attachment frame. We're going to work with live emotion and we're going to like work experientially in the now moment. And when we do that, we will, people will move, people will make progress.
Yeah. So we have a fantastic group of colleagues over here. If you need to make referrals, join the community. You could even post on the EFTCNJ, hey, do you know of a therapist, that EFT trained therapist who could see one of the members of my couple? It'll make your work so much easier because managing other people involved in the relationship that are not in the room with you is just a whole other dynamic.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. Have a like little referral group or team. All of us who are probably on this call could refer to each other. So it would be really good to um, get more connected with other EFT therapists. I'm gonna just drop before people. I know people are leaving, but I'm gonna put in the chat box any of you who are interested in doing I have a
Oh,
2 hour booster coming up.
yeah, it's actually had that in mind. Could you say a little bit about what that is, Debbie?
Okay, so what I've been doing, because I was asked, is doing like little 2 hour online, like taking all the stuff from Core Skills 1 basically and funneling it down, which is one of my big strengths, funneling down the model to be as simplistic as possible. So I take the key points from Core Skills 1, Core Skills 2, Core Skills 3 is the one that's coming up. And it's all about withdrawers. And we're going to take, in those 2 hours, we're going to look at some of the key points of working with withdrawers. And it's kind of like a refresher because some of you may have done core skills, 10 years ago. Some of you haven't even done it yet. And even if you haven't done it, it would be a good thing to do as well, because at least it'll start to expose you even before you do your core skills. And then it'll become clearer. Because you can't hear this stuff enough. I just want to say, like, you cannot hear like information about EFT, like people who come to externships and core skills and keep coming back as helpers and stuff, or do the refreshers or whatever. Like it's like each time I did it, I did 15 externships. I was even a trainer during my last few externships that I kind of went as a helper. And it could have even been more than 15. It was a lot. And I did it because every time I was able to take in more and learn EFT on a deeper level every single time. Because it's like drinking water out of a fire hose. So, you can get a little more water each time, which I think is really important and learn it on a deeper level. And then you have experience also, the year experience between helping out or whatever. So this is
Important.
the pressure.
And like you always say, first of all, sorry guys for stepping out. I have my son who's off from day camp today because he's not feeling so well, so he's in another room. So I just went to take care of him for a little bit. Yeah, and I think it's so important what you're saying, Debbie, also because, especially the way you teach this, right? This is experiential. So it's not just about having the information, it's about feeling the information. And the more immersed we are, the more we are immersed in this in a live setting like this through actual communication, right? It's just different. It's like you feel EFT versus EFT, and we have to keep feeling EFT again and again and again and again. So
Yes, 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 yes. And most people spend their first externship thinking about their own relationships. Really common. And then you don't know nothing about EFT because you did that. Then the next externship, maybe you're thinking about your clients, or maybe you come in and you're really cognitive your whole first externship and you're like trying to organize the model and then we miss the experiential piece. This is why like it's so important to stay connected and stay connected to the community, stay connected to each other, and you know, be a part of the trainings in your area. I don't know if all of us are New Jersey people here, but I see some names that are from other areas, but or help out at an online externship. So,
all right. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for posting your questions. Thank you for your energy and your enthusiasm. Thank you, Debbie, again for giving us your guidance and your time. I do definitely see how passionate you are about this work. This is your life's mission, and we're so fortunate to be trained by you and to keep passing this on. And I just want to remind you again what you always repeat at the externship, like all the ripple effects of so many people's lives being touched that you will never even meet. But I know it's happening and what's happening in my practice and everybody's practice. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. And a special shout out to the EFTCNJ team. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Simi. Thank you, Abby. Thank you for all the effort that you put and the energy into making these things happen.
I second that. That's what I was going to say is thank you to the EFTCNJ team. Like I so appreciate you guys too and what you've done for the community and by doing these Q&As and giving people more access. So it's
Thank you.
awesome.
All right. Great seeing you all again.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.